Good morning, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome back to Law and Crime, where we cover some of the most interesting live trials across the country today. And today we're entering day 4 of a huge case that we've been covering, the Tex McIver case out of Georgia, the case of a prominent attorney who was charged in the shooting death of his wife. He is charged with multiple counts of murder, including felony murder. He's also charged with aggravated assault and 3 counts of influencing witnesses, as well as some other charges. Now, the prosecution is saying that he intentionally shot his wife for financial gain. The defense is saying that this was all a tragic accident. It all unfolded while he, Mr. Tex McIver, as well as his wife, Diane McIver, and Danny Jo Carter, a friend, were all traveling in a car together. Danny Jo was driving, Diane McIver was in the front passenger seat, and Tex McIver was behind her. At some point during this drive, it is alleged by both sides that Diane handed Tex a revolver, a gun that was in the dashboard in the glove compartment, handed the gun to him, and he says, according to the defense, that he fell asleep while holding the gun, and as soon as there was a jerk in the car, the gun accidentally fired and shot his wife. The prosecution is saying it doesn't work that way, that he intentionally killed her and aimed the gun in such a way as to purposely shoot and kill her. It's an interesting case, the back and forth. Yesterday, we saw the testimony of people at the hospital, Emory Hospital, where Diane McIver was eventually taken. We saw actually surveillance footage of her being wheeled into the hospital. It was actually very disturbing, but important nonetheless, because we're not only just studying Diane McIver there and what she went through, but we're looking carefully at Tex McIver. Tex McIver's in the red shirt right there with the white belt and navy pants, and this is being studied by the jury. How did he react when they brought her into the hospital? Was this a man that was deeply concerned, or was he more nonchalant? This is another view of him entering the hospital. You see him carrying Diane's leg through while she was being wheeled in a wheelchair. I know that is a disturbing image, but it's important to see for anybody who's following this case. And that's also what the jury is seeing as well. So let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday and more about this case in general. We do expect live coverage today any moment. They've been starting at around 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as soon as we do have a feed, we'll make sure to go to it. But real quick, let's bring in our guest, criminal defense attorney Yosha Gunasekera. Yosha, great to see you.
It's great to be here.
All right, let's break this down. I gave this case a lot of thought last night. As I heard witness after witness, and I heard the prosecution's case, talking about a man that he was initially charged when this case first came out with involuntary manslaughter and reckless conduct. It was up to murder charges based upon his behavior, namely the idea that he was trying to cover up what happened, trying to suppress witnesses, and he changed his story multiple times. Here's my question to you. Couldn't it have been an accident, and he didn't know that other people might have viewed it as a murder, and he was just trying to cover up an accident as opposed to trying to cover up a murder? Because we heard testimony yesterday about Diane McIver telling nurses and doctors it was an accident, but Tex didn't hear that. So couldn't it just be a guy who's stupid?
Definitely. I think this case could really be an accident. And what's really interesting is how people react after a tragedy. People react in so many different ways. Not everyone cries. Not everyone is hysterical. So to use those testimony as proof that he was acting strangely and intentionally did something, I think is wrong here.
Well, we could play devil's advocate, because yesterday we saw the testimony of a nurse who testified to the fact that Tex McIver provided a different account of what happened. Remember, we know that he shot her in that car. But listen to what one nurse said yesterday about what Tex McIver said.
He was very flustered, and I shot her.
Okay, so did you hear him say anything?
I heard him say, and this is what I heard, and it was in passing. I was passing through that I was cleaning my gun in the bathroom and I shot her.
I'm sorry.
I was cleaning my gun in the bathroom and I shot her.
And you heard him say that?
Yes, from him, not from anybody else.
Just to be sure, so the hallway is there. When you were passing him, were you close to him?
Yes.
I'm going to walk towards you. Just tell me when to stop.
Sure.
When I'm close. Was he this close?
Much closer.
This close?
Yeah, I was literally here. You come closer.
Like right here?
Yeah.
So you were passing him when you heard him say that he was cleaning his gun?
Yes.
And he shot her?
Yes.
Did he mention where he shot her?
No, I did not. Because it was in passing, it was so quick. That was the only part of sentence that I heard.
Okay. And make sure I'm writing this down right. I was cleaning
My gun.
Uh-huh.
I shot her.
Did you say where?
I heard bathroom.
Do you remember where in the sentence he said bathroom? If you have to talk in the
I was cleaning my gun in the bathroom.
In the bathroom. When I shot her?
Yes.
Okay. Did you share this information with any other nurses?
Not really, no.
Did you speak to the police afterwards?
Let's break this one down. Yosha, how do you explain that for all the Tex McIver defenders out there? If she really heard what she heard, why would he say he was cleaning his gun in the bathroom and he shot his wife? That's a lie.
It's possible that he is in panic mode. He realizes that he had the gun and his wife was shot, and all fingers are going to point to him. So he's trying to find an alternate explanation that sounds better. Sure, is it the right thing to do? No. But does it prove that he's a murderer or a killer? I don't think so.
Yes, but if you have a jury that's listening to this and they know that he lied and he's changing his story, why should they believe him?
It's hard. I think they're going to try to build credibility in other ways. They're going to try to prove that he had a great relationship with his wife. And again, it's so important to remember beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest standard. And so even though he might not be the most truthful person, it doesn't necessarily mean that when the other evidence comes in, that he's going to be guilty.
Let's not forget that this nurse was the only person so far to testify to that statement. She said that she's not sure if anyone else heard it. We haven't heard anybody else testify to the fact that he said he was cleaning his gun in the bathroom and it went off and shot Diane. So she's the only person right there to say that. Let's play you the testimony right now of Blair Brown. She's another ER nurse, and listen to what her account of what Tex said was.
So at that time, I was, like I said, part of a trauma of any kind, and it wasn't evident. Was finding the wound, locating where she had been hit by a bullet. So you're taking off all her personal items, you're taking off her clothes. I was taking.
All right, we'll cut out of that because we have a live feed in the Tex McIver case out of Georgia. I think we have some audio, so let's listen in.
It may be that it's a little longer just because of the way things are flowing, but I am hearing clearly and have expressed to the attorneys that you are all business and we are to use your time wisely, which we've been trying to do and will continue to try to do that. And for that reason, we're going to jump right into it. The state's going to call its next witness. Good morning, Mr. Rucker.
Good morning, Your Honor. And good morning, counsel. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your Honor, the state would call Nurse Terry Sullivan to the stand.
Okay.
Okay. Could you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the jurors by telling them your name and tell them how you are currently employed?
My name is Terry Sullivan. I'm currently an RN in the ER at Emory University Hospital main campus. I've worked in the ER since 2006.
Okay. And can you share with them just a little bit about your educational background that allowed you to perform your duties as a registered nurse?
I graduated nursing school in 1987 from Castleton State College in Vermont. I completed my BSN from Villanova University 2 years ago, and I'm currently a master's student at Duke University.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how long have you worked in the ER department at Emory University Hospital main campus?
I've worked in that ER since 2006.
Okay. And how long have you been employed with Emory in total?
The same thing, 2006.
Same thing. Okay. So can you tell the jurors, I want to direct your attention to the evening of September 25th, 2016, and ask you if you remember that date.
I do.
Okay. You remember that it was a Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. And were you working on that evening?
I was.
What time did you come on to work that evening?
7 p.m.
And what time were you scheduled to get off?
7:30 a.m.
7:30 a.m. That's a long night, isn't it?
We do 12-hour nights.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how were you assigned within the emergency room department that night?
I was assigned to rooms 11, 12, 13.
Okay. And explain to the jurors what you mean by you were assigned to rooms 11, 12, and 13. What rooms are we talking about?
In the emergency department, we have 3 patient assignments, and our assignments are based upon room number, so that whatever patients go into those rooms, those are your patients throughout your 12-hour shift. So I had all the patients that went to rooms 11, 12, 13 throughout the 12 hours that I was working.
If you can recall, can you tell the jurors, was that a particularly busy night?
It was a very busy night.
Okay. And typically, about how many registered nurses work within the ER on any given night? Any idea?
I can calculate it for you.
Okay.
There's 1 nurse for every 3 beds, so... Like 11 or 12? Oh, sorry. Like 15, because I wasn't counting triage and up front and all of that.
Okay, okay. So you saw the defendant and how many other people standing in the hallway?
At least 3 others.
At least 3 others. Can you describe the first person you saw?
I saw somebody that was in the hallway with like a legal pad that was writing on the legal pad.
Okay.
I can't see anything you got on the board.
Okay. Sure, to you.
Are you going to do it rapidly?
I'm trying to do it in a way that doesn't obstruct the jurors, the witness, the court
Right, but the
reporter.
screen right there, it's complicated. I don't mind if you block the camera, if you want to angle it, but if the jurors need to see it, then you need to angle it in a way that's pretty complicated for Mr. Samuel. Well, I'm not going to say you can't write on it. I don't know if you want to have a chance to look at it, but we have a suboptimal setup in this courtroom.
Okay.
If he's going to do the entire examination, I'll move. If he's just doing 1 or 2 things, then I'll just wait.
Let me see if I can cure it. Will you shut that down with it? Thank you. Can you help me with this? Okay. You come to this right here. Next to you.
While they try to figure out where to position this, I want to talk to Yosha real quick. I'm bothered by the point about the experience of the nurses in this situation and the hospital not that keen on gunshot wounds and trauma and things of that nature, and trying to show the pinpoint. Actually, you know what? We'll talk about that in a minute. I think the attorney's starting up again. Yosha, stand by.
Okay. And then you said a person with a legal pad.
Yes.
Was it male or female?
Male.
What was his race?
He was Caucasian, an older gentleman.
Older gentleman. Who's the next person you saw?
I saw a woman wearing some Western attire. Specifically, I remember the cowboy hat and pink boots and pink cowboy hat.
Okay. Anybody else you remember in that group?
There was another gentleman. I really didn't, there was nothing that stood out about him, but there was another gentleman there.
What was his race?
He was also Caucasian.
Okay. How about his age?
Probably middle-aged.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors, during the time you saw this group in the hallway, did you ever, were you ever in a position where you were close enough to overhear if anything was being discussed?
I did hear as I was walking between room 11 and 12, tell them. Somebody said the words tell them. And it struck me as odd.
The 2 words, tell them.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors, was that when you were leaving room 11 to room 12?
Yes.
Okay. And then, did you ever leave room 12?
Yes.
And when you left room 12, was the group still standing in the hallway?
Yes.
And were you ever in a position to hear anything else from that group?
I was busy and kind of going back and forth, so I really wasn't in a position to listen in on what was going on.
Okay. And listen in. Let me just ask you this. You and I have had the opportunity to meet and talk prior to the day, right?
Yes.
You were actually kind enough to come down to the office like last year sometime, right?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, do you have like perfect, like biotic hearing in both of your ears?
No.
Okay. And you're laughing about that, right?
Right.
Tell the jurors why you're laughing about that.
The reference to bionic, but my hearing with age has kind of diminished a little bit,
Right.
and I recognize that I don't always hear absolutely everything, so we have great teamwork, and I'll utilize my teammates occasionally or have to ask people to repeat.
Right. And is there a distance from which it's really hard for you to hear? Is it a distance thing?
More of a distance thing, yeah.
Okay. So the closer a person is to you,
Right.
the better it is you're able to hear.
Correct.
Okay. And so can you tell the jurors that condition, the deterioration of your ears over age, is it with respect to your right ear and your left ear, or just one?
Actually, it seems just the right.
Your right ear?
Mm-hmm.
This one right here?
Yes.
Okay. So can you tell the jurors, over time, have you learned to compensate for that?
Yes.
Tell them how you compensate for that.
I'll kind of do this number and people will repeat, or if it's something that I need to hear, I'll ask somebody else if they heard to clarify, to make sure I heard correctly.
Okay. How about your left ear? How's your hearing in your left ear?
Not a problem.
Not a problem. So you can hear clearly with your left ear.
Mm-hmm.
And on occasion, do you position your left ear in a way such that you can hear?
Sometimes.
Okay. Now, during the evaluation of Mr. McIver at this time, can you tell the jurors, did he ever report to you that he suffers from a sleep disorder?
No, and I specifically asked if he had any chronic medical conditions. I scripted the same for every patient. Do you have any conditions with your heart, lungs, kidneys, thyroid, diabetes, or any other chronic medical conditions that you are or have been treated for? And additionally, I asked him what medications he takes. And that also would trigger, because sometimes people forget that they have a medical condition, or they don't view it as a medical condition if they're taking medicine for it. Mm-hmm. They view it as taken care of, old history kind of thing, and there was nothing there either.
Did he ever report to you that he suffers from amnesia sometimes?
No.
And as part of the evaluation, let me ask, do you go into detail, like in this case, about any of the facts and circumstances surrounding the shooting? Did you ask me anything about that?
I did not.
Okay, so that's Terry Sullivan. Now, I want to talk to Yosha about this. I'm not seeing anything that's helping the prosecution's case this much. I don't care, even if she did hear from what she overheard from the defendant saying, this is what we're going to tell them. Again, we talked about this earlier, Yosha, the fact that that might be the case, but maybe he was in panic mode. Didn't mean he was covering up a murder.
They're trying to focus or trying to create chaos, saying that he's telling different stories to so many different people. I agree with you. I don't think it's compelling, and I really don't think the fact that he wasn't crying is necessarily compelling here either. People react so differently in different traumatic situations.
I think the only thing that might have been of interest is the last part where she treated him for different disorders, and he didn't mention the fact about this sleeping disorder. Now, that can go a few different ways because But it is interesting because that very night, sleeping, according to him, is what caused this accident, as he claims. What do you think of it, Yosha?
It's possible that he didn't know he had a sleeping disorder. He was undiagnosed, and so therefore wasn't going to be able to offer that to the nurse. That's
a good point. He maybe didn't know about it. Again, we're listening to this case. We're trying to understand what they're pointing to. And the other interesting part of it is you hear nurses, and you heard this mostly yesterday, about questioning the fact, did Tex McIver take Diane to the appropriate hospital? Now we hear witnesses talking about the fact that, oh, they didn't specialize in gunshot victims, the gunshot wounds. This is sometimes the first time, the second time they've ever dealt with it. We heard one valet person being questioned yesterday about, have you ever seen signs that says, no traumatic injuries or gunshot wounds admitted into Emory? I think this is a weak part of the prosecution's case.
I agree. I think it's totally weak as well.
Yeah. All right, we have audio. Let's listen back into the courtroom.
Yeah, this is my assessment.
Okay. That's your assessment? Mm-hmm. Those are the notes that you entered into the official record there at the hospital regarding the evaluation you did for Mr. McIver?
Yes, sir.
And contained within your notes, you can just look over them because although they're in evidence, we don't have to read the whole document. We've heard your testimony. Can you tell the jurors your descriptions that you've given them here this morning, are they contained within those notes that are contained in State's Exhibit 259?
The physical assessment is correct. Everything was normal. The mental health assessment, psychosocial, is more detailed in my notes that I couldn't recall completely off of the top of my head without the reference.
Okay, now that you've had the opportunity to look at the mental health assessment, can you tell the jurors what were your evaluations and your opinions with respect to his mental health assessment that night?
Well, as I said, he was alert and oriented, calm and cooperative, but I documented specifically what it was that he said to me. Verbatim in the notes. He stated that he needed, quote, something to help me cope. He kept telling me his wife died unexpectedly tonight. He made no reference to a gunshot wound at all. He just kept saying that his wife died unexpectedly tonight. He stated he had no family and he would hear and he would call them in the morning. He was here with a friend. I actually also screened him for suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation as part of any psychiatric related complaint, and he denied both of those.
So when you say you screened him for suicidal and homicidal ideation, what do you do?
I kind of talked to them about how are they feeling, are you feeling hopeless, do you have, that's how we got to that he didn't have any family here, but that he was here with a friend, so he had somebody to kind of lean on to help him cope. And I literally will ask them, you know, do you feel like you want to hurt yourself? But it's not that direct. We kind of talk a little bit first to make a comfort level.
And with respect to both of those ideations, he responded to you in the negative note? Correct. Okay. Anything else that we need to, I know what it was. Flip over to the blue tab. And can you give the jury some idea with respect to the times? What time did Mr. McIver check into the check himself in? And then do you note what time it was that you would have seen him?
Yes, he checked in at 4:40 in the morning, yes, on the 26th. I'm not for sure how we ended up discovering that he was a high-profile person. I don't know if it was someone in registration that realized who it was. I'm not sure all of the details of how that came to be because there was so much activity going on and so much kind of, as I said, controlled chaos. I'm not sure where that information came out and about Mrs. McIver's community status.
I mean, was it by 11 o'clock at night, within 30 minutes of getting there?
I honestly don't know.
When did the conversation occur that went around and around about him getting off because of his high profile or financial status?
Probably around the time that, and I don't have a specific timeline, as I had said, I was kind of going around the ER to see if anybody else needed help and how the other patients were. Because everybody was in that resuscitation room, so it was in that same time frame when they were working on Mrs. McIver.
You thought he was guilty when they drove into the ER, didn't you?
I didn't even know when he drove into the ER.
You thought he was guilty because nobody with a gunshot would ever come to Emory. Isn't that what you told Mr. Rucker?
That is a true statement that I said we do not get gunshot victims to Emory because we're not a trauma center. they would come in, well, we wouldn't take an ambulance person with a gunshot wound because the EMS know that they have to take them either to Grady or AMC. And in my experience, if anybody comes with a significant gunshot, there's never been a situation that there wasn't something to it that the police ended up wanting to know about or that turned out to be a police matter.
You thought, listen to my question, please, he was guilty when they drove in.
No.
Objection, Judge. She's already answered that question. She says she didn't even know when we drove in.
She did answer your question. If you want to ask a different question, you can do that.
I would like to reference her transcript.
Okay. Meaning you want to recognize that photo?
That's our family consult room.
Okay, family consult room. It states 255. Is that if you're standing in the doorway of the room looking at the right side of the room?
I'm sorry?
If you're standing in the doorway?
Yes.
That's a photograph of the right side of the room?
Yes.
Okay. And in that photograph, we can see the ability to seat about how many people?
3.
Okay. And this states 256. That's if you're standing in the doorway, and that's the left side of the room?
Yes.
And that photograph shows the ability to see. We've already got 3. Those are the same 2 chairs, right?
Those are the same 2 chairs.
Okay, so we got 3.
Oh, man, you were watching some good testimony today in the Tex McIver case. It's this witness, Terry Sullivan. She's a nurse. She is now back on redirect. So much to talk about. Now, Yosha, I know our time together is coming to an end, but I just would like your final thoughts as we watch this witness. Just final thoughts about the case.
I mean, this testimony is incredible. If we continue to see this, I think Tex has a very good chance of the jury finding him not guilty. It's going to be interesting to continue to watch the cross-examination of the state's witnesses.
Yeah, it's been great. Yosha Gunasekera, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, let's go back into the courtroom.